the most custom amount of parts we are about to put on the flat tracker project. Let me explain. Finally got everything figured out in order to get a front brake setup, and I didn't just want something thrown together, and even if I couldn't really find anything. Everything had to be custom made around my forks, my Öhlins, my Lowery Racing wheels, my triple T's. Everything had to be thought out in order for me to get to the final layout of this. That has been the most mind-boggling thing to try to figure out, because I'm not a machinist, and a lot of these parts, if you have a machine shop, you know your way around that, it'd be a lot easier. You can pretty much know what to measure, figure out what thickness you need for spacers, figure out what lengths you need for stuff. That's not me. I don't have any of that. But what I do have is an idea. So I threw this out there to the companies that I've been working with on different hands on this for Lowery Racing wheels. Huge help in order to get this all figured out. Trying to figure out what caliper, trying to figure out what's going to work for the rotors. Everything has just been forethought out for this whole fucking plan. All right, so show you guys what I've been finally waiting for. Some of these parts took forever to come in, and no fault to any of the companies, just the way I had to pick things and wait for things. All right, so what we have, first need to figure out which caliper to go with, an axial or a radial mounted. Radial mounted is more of the new style calipers that you see. They're more directly bolt on to the forks. They're more ridge mounted, less flexing. The axial is more of a traditional against the conventional telescopic forks. More older Japanese style bikes had them out when they were coming out. A lot of the Brembo style were coming out with those, and they would have more of a floating caliper hanging out there. Essentially these here. So this is a P4 caliper by Brembo, and I waited a long time to get these. I had to get this all the way from Italy. You probably wonder why, because this is a very common caliper in their stock standard form, which is a cast aluminum. Kind of looks like a rough finish aluminum. If you ever seen what cast looks like. And most of like Harley's calipers that are Brembo on there, and then there's the actual name brand Brembo calipers. Both are Brembo, but the ones actually say Brembo on them all have that cast finish, and I wanted it to match my wheels, so I wanted the CNC version of the P4. These are hard to get. I had to track everywhere. No one had them in stock. A lot of them said they had to be custom made. Finally found a company that had them on the shelf. My problem is they were all the way in Italy, but they shipped right away, which was awesome. I thought I was getting scammed, and then it went through customs, tariffs. It was the whole deal getting these things. These are not cheap by any means, but they're also pretty rare for the style. So it matched perfect with the Lowery Racing wheels. So I'm stoked. We got a left and a right one, and the CNC ones are a tad bit lighter. This is actually the lightest Brembo caliper that they make. I also wanted to go with more of a traditional race style for this flat track. It's more thin width-wise than your radial style calipers. So I'm going with those. And to make this even more backwards, where we're going now is trying to get this caliper to match with my Öhlins front end and Lowery Racing wheels. So the Öhlins, even though there are two holes set up to put a caliper bracket, no one makes one. Öhlins doesn't make one. There's no factory out there that's producing any type, or small shop. I had to figure out what I was gonna do, because I was really up shit's creek on trying to figure out how the hell am I gonna mount these things. And you gotta figure out the distance between your wheel, how it's gonna mount against the hub. So going back to Lowery now. So Lowery has the wheels that we have with the hubs that are set up. And what they do is they have the Lowery Racing flat track wheels, and then they have these hubs. You can choose different ones, but these ones are the ones I went with, which were more for the TT style racing back when I originally ordered them. These ones here have a setup so that you can run essentially an 03 to an 04 mounting of a Yamaha R6. That's probably right around the years anyway. Yeah, 03 to 04 particularly. Now, we can go down the path of all the different Yamahas and why and the mounting and that fit the same. But in particular, they stuck with the 03 to 04 that you can buy off the shelf. So this is the bracket that goes over our hub. That's made by Lowery Racing. That is all pretty much on their website, ready to go. So I figured, well, I'll call Lowery Racing. We'll just get the bracket that way. Done deal. Well, they didn't make a bracket. They didn't make a bracket for any caliper. They have it set up for a rotor, but they didn't have anything for a caliper. Now, they are typically strictly flat track racing, parts, wheels, more of the custom side KTMs, Enduros that you can ride. So I contacted them direct, said, is there any way that I can get you guys to help me get this equation figured out? I have no idea what you guys need for measurements. I don't know where you want me to even start. So essentially, luckily they have an engineer that can build something on site through CAD. I said, all right, sweet. So I grabbed all my brake parts and everything that I had and shipped them out to them. And they ended up making me a custom bracket. This is one of them. Both of them are different for left and right. This bracket is a one-of-a-kind bracket. No one else has this bracket. So I'm stoked. We got a 1-out-of-1 style setup that we are building with this. And that is going to be able to, so we can mount the entire thing on our Lowery Racing wheels. What we need to do first is we got to pop off the wheel here. We got to add a hub to the other side. I have the right hand, and we're going to add the other hub to the right hand side. And then we can start mounting up the rest, getting everything else bolted up. I've never done a Lowery Racing wheel hub, so thought we could be able to just break one side loose and put the hub on, but we got to break both sides loose so we can install both here together. We'll break this one out, hopefully. Okay, that's one side. The bolts go through to both. Flip that over. Should hopefully have enough length. Yep, good there. There. All right, so this should, yep, it comes right off there. Axle space to there. Simple, easy, clean. It's nice when it's race-driven parts. Stuff is meant to come apart very easy for replacement, change-outs. It's awesome. Okay. So this is gonna go back in. So I guess we could have kept it on there. And I wanna make sure we're completely flat. Everything's nice and machined, not to be crooked, and it's aluminum. Grab some Loctite, and should be good to just do it this way, hopefully. Whoop, that's way too much Loctite there. Inside these hubs, there's like one groove spot to put the axle spacer in, which is nice. But it doesn't want to hold itself there, so we gotta put it on the side. And then the bolts get threaded into the other hub. So let's see if we can get this in one shot. Now we just gotta torque these down. So these are 25 foot-pounds per Lowery Racing, making sure we go in our star pattern. So when I first started building this bike and I bought these wheels, they're like one of the first purchases for this flat track project that I was kind of basing the whole flat tracker look around, because these are both 19-inch wheels and the size and all that, is that I thought the hub assembly that I bought was going to fit a dual disc setup. Didn't have any idea what I was getting into at that point. And then after all this came about, realizing that I need to buy the other hub. So if you go and buy the hubs the first time on their website from Lowery, they'll actually assemble that whole hub assembly for you, so you don't have to do that step that I just did, which was take it all apart, put the both hubs together, and squish it. So now we're on part 2, which is the carrier portion to get the rotors on this wheel. So these are, what am I gonna call it, adapters, carriers for the hub. So we're gonna get these bolted on to the hub itself, and these are our mounting points for the rotor, all right? So I think I have the torque spec. There's not really a book on that, so we'll get that figured out. This looks generally straightforward. Should just slide right over, and so we don't have to adjust it. Try to get as close as we can to our mounting bolts here. 1,600 bolts now to put on here, so I got some medium strength Loctite here. These all by hand first. I thought rotors were gonna be easy to pick out after I got everything else laid out and figured out for this bike, even after the caliper was figured out at their location. This is nothing against Lowery. This is just, I guess I would have figured that this part would have been figured out beyond. But when they were doing this, essentially they made the hub carrier just to fit in 03 to 04. I don't know if they had the old blueprints or the CAD designer, that's all he knew for hub designs for street bikes. I don't really know. But for some reason, they didn't know anything beyond that, and they didn't know what sizing either. So a stock 03 to 04 is a 298 millimeter rotor, but beyond that, they bump up to 320. It's a big difference. So trying to figure out which one to go with, they didn't really know, but they based it off in 03 to 04. So that's what I'm hoping is going to work. That's what it looks like it works. So I went and bought a caliper rotor, pretty common in the Harley world, pretty common everywhere. They're exploding pretty much on all bikes. They got the crazy wafer look going on with their rotors. This is our design. So this is also a step up. The company I got this from did, well, we'll say now, awesome job, because when I bought the one that I wanted, which is essentially just the base caliper rotor from 03 to 04 R6, they sent me this one. I'm like, this looks wrong, and realized that this is for an MT-09, and it actually is the same mounting points. Yamaha pretty much keeps all of the same mounting points, just like Harley and the other bikes. So good news on that. It's also a 298 millimeter. I'm just hoping that this just still fits, because I know how things go, and if it's not exactly the same part that was spec'd with everything, it may not work. So this is going to mount like that. All right, let's see how this goes. After researching all of this stuff and figuring out what years and going through Yamaha forums, I found out that the 03 to 04 R6 is the first year, or 03 I should say, is the first year that the R6 was fuel injected. It was first introduced in 1999, all carbureted of course. But yeah, 03, they changed it to fuel injection, pretty much gave it the classic crotch rocket look. So. So before we get the wheel on, I got two spacers that were made by Lowery. They're hoping that these work. We got the measurements close, hoping so too. Otherwise, I gotta get this measured out best I can and let them know so they can remake these, but they make these custom for this application that we're putting together here. All right, so let's hope. Bam, look at that. Well, we got the front rotor on, but it just rubs on the bolts. So I'm gonna see if I can realign it, look at the axle. I may have to add just a hair of a spacer and it'll clear the whole deal. But for right now, I'm fighting it back and forth, and I wanna make sure it's right before I just jam it in there. Too many expensive parts to try to monkey with on that side. I'm gonna see if I can find something that will work, and or we'll call back with Lowery, get the right spacer, and then we can finish up the whole caliper. Still got a master cylinder, hoses. But for the front, looks good. Not too bad. I like it. The rear, completely different. But there's a long whole story behind that for another time. But for now, guys, that'll wrap up for this one. I'll greatly appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button, tap that like, press the notification, leave a comment below and tell me what you think. For those that are already subscribed, thank you. And as always, stay free. Catch you guys later. Peace.